After celebrating our ascent, we descended the other side of the pass, following the route of the old Silk Road that had led traders from Ladakh to China and Russia for hundreds of years. After crossing the highest point of our journey, we all felt like we were on holiday from our holiday as we drove down into Nubra Valley.
What has happened between the people has been incredibly nourishing for me. And that also has invited dimensions of letting go of fear and letting go of self-image and identity and grooves, you know.
Nubra is a double-sided valley, and visitors can only go 40 kilometers into each side. Both sides lead to the Pakistani border, and one to the highest battlefield in the world on a disputed glacier called Siachen, so the security is strict. The oldest Gompa in Nubra is called Diskit and is perched on top of a cliff in a spectacular location. After visiting Diskit, we drove the few kilometers to our hotel, a house built and furnished in the traditional Ladakhi style. Nearly every family in Ladakh has its own large and extensive vegetable garden, which is mixed with beautiful and practical flowers that deter pests. Ladakh is one of the few places in India that you can eat delicious organic food.
We've just had a ball. I mean, the dinners we've had, there's so many laughs and the kind of controlled discipline when we're riding, you know, where you're not talking to anybody really, but you're totally locked into one another very carefully, because there's a, you know, one false move on these roads and it's all over, basically, you know, it's pretty hairy.
Ash and Dipesh have arranged a visit to one of the local oracles. Normally women, they heal the sick, offer blessings and protective prayers, and function as a shamanistic figure in the community. They also predict people's futures, which has turned our minds towards our own possible destinies.
I suppose I was wondering whether I might ever get another girlfriend. That's probably the main question I've got. Or am I destined to be a lonely old man?
I have very few expectations. Yeah, I don't know if I want to know too much about my future. I just let it unfold.
I've been feeling the same, but I don't know, I'm starting to ask about relationships and futures, I guess, just what she has to say.
Pour moi, ça me fait rien pour le poulet sur le pont avec le bicyclette.
Don't really have anything specific, but you never know. Lots of money and many girls.
The ceremony starts with the oracle offering blessings and prayers. Then the local people approach her with their problems and illnesses. The oracle sucks on their bodies to remove poisons in their systems. She then gets one of her assistants to heat a piece of iron over the kitchen stove until it becomes red hot. She takes this scorching piece of metal and rubs it on her tongue, and then blows air over the wounds of her patients. After seeing all the sick people who come to her, she calls each person forward and blesses them with chants and touch. She ties a small piece of string around Baba's index finger for protection and instructs him to wear it until it falls off of its own accord. Our questions about the future remain unanswered, but we leave the oracle with a sense of peace. Leh is a quiet and bustling town, all at the same time. Its long tradition as a trading and staging post on one branch of the Silk Road somehow still remains, although in a different form. Nowadays its main business is tourism and supplying the army camps that are stationed nearby. But it would be hard to find as many smiles in any other town of its size in the world.
I've just been hanging out down in the bazaar this afternoon, sort of trying to buy a few odds and ends. It's just a really nice little shopping scene. The people are so sort of soft and with that kind of Buddhist quality that Ladakh's got. I love that feeling that's around.
Thank you, thank you.
There's a lack of kind of people trying to get something out of you.
There's beautiful Ladakhi people who are, I think, probably one of the most developed cultures around. I read an interesting signpost the other day. It said, "Simplicity is the height of civilization." And I can only agree with that. They're very simple, they live a very simple life here, highly civilized.
Our last stop on this journey is the Gompa at Lamayuru. Lying 120 kilometers to the west of Leh, it has perhaps one of the most dramatic locations of all the Ladakhi Gompas. It is perched on a hill in the middle of what could only be described as a moonscape of eroded cliffs. Lamayuru is the oldest Gompa in Ladakh, dating back before the 10th century. The tantric master Naropa meditated in a cave here in the 11th century, and you can still see this cave in the wall of the main temple.
The experience of being here, coming to these monasteries, experiencing the depth and the silence and those spaces that are not really available anywhere else in the world now. It's got the sense that people have been sitting in these places for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I can only describe it, it's really, really deep, silent space. Just amazing.
Each time that I've sat in one of those rooms in the Gompas, you just immediately fall into this deep silence. It's a place where you can let the silence penetrate.
I don't know what the place of them is in the modern world, you know, what they're going to be showing the world, but for me, for sure, I just appreciate so much that they lack the modern crazy world and they hold this space that's been going for centuries and centuries. I love the taste of that.
I think the best thing for me is to be able to share something I really and totally love doing myself, to share the space that I have when I'm here, the sense of expansion and freedom that I have when I'm here. And it's beautiful because many people are able to actually experience that, and that's a great feeling for me.
I just love to be here, and I love to ride the bike, and I love to take people with me. It's simple like that. It's just wow.
I would have to say I think the altitude and the high, like the riding high, is more than just how high we are on this planet, right? We're pretty high up and you get the great overview. But the altitude seems to have, I don't know if it's the altitude or just being here, or being with this group of people, but I don't think I've had as many belly laughs regularly and tears streaming out with some of the dynamics. You know, I think it's been one of the greatest gifts in the whole of the trip has been the laughter.
I feel like I'd like to really go back to a few of these places and hang out a little bit more. I don't know how realistic that is.
While we're trying to dive deeper and deeper into Ladakh, into the mountains, into the unexplored valleys, and Zanskar is on our list, and we're going to take people on a even more interesting trip than before. Everything going to be just like getting better and better.
Zanskar is the most secluded of all the valleys in Ladakh. The distance from Leh to Badum, the main town of Zanskar, is the same as the distance we rode from Manali to Leh, which is just too far to travel for most people. Currently, there are very few foreign tourists there, and most of them trek in to stay a few days and then move on to their next trek. But the Indian Army are building 2 roads into this isolated valley, which will undoubtedly bring change in their wake. Like so many places on Earth, the splendid isolation of such a beautiful valley cannot last for too much longer.
खट आकाश से पंछी बोला, खट आकाश से पंछी बोला, जागो धरती पे मौसम है आया, जागो धरती पे मौसम